In today's video, we'll be analyzing my game against Tarika Juravaili. I've had a rough patch, but this is the beginning of a very, very big comeback. We've got 4 more games to go, and those are 4 more games that I'm going to win. So let's get right into the game, because in today's video, we're going to be doing some extremely cool analysis with some juicers, some wooden shields, and a lot of really cool stuff. I apologize for the insane wind. Uh, and I apologize that I'm not wearing my favorite pineapple shirt today. Um, but it is Wednesday. It's extremely, extremely windy. But let's get into things. So I'm playing black against Rika Juravaili. She starts with d4. We just had a rest day yesterday, so I was well rested. And after 4 games that I win, I was very eager to win a game. So d4 out of 6, c4 e6. She played g3. And I was probably expecting her to play g3 because she had played e4 once in the tournament. But I knew she's more of a d4, c4 player, or maybe an a3 move, but she's more of a d4 player. So I wasn't sure what to expect. G3 was one of the things I expected. And the point of g3 before, obviously, if you want to play the Catalan, you can go knight f3, and after g5 you play g3. But the point of g3 is to stop b6, and after b6 you have bishop b2, and you can't, develop with bishop b7. You have to block, and now bishop's not too great on this diagonal, anyways. And then maybe white can now just take the center. These 3 big juicers with a big white center. So I play c5, challenging center. I have a couple games here. The main move is to play d5, and we get this actually Benoni position. After d6, knight c3, g3. We sort of develop like this, knight f3, knight f6, castles, and we have a modern Benoni, but with g3. So this is sort of the most tame setup against the modern Benoni. It's an imbalanced position. I was hoping to fight for a win here. But you should play knight f3, which is actually the most dull move. And I had a feeling that she was going to go for this. Because she probably wanted to keep some control, and it's quite hard to create play for a win. Like the main line is you play takes d5, bishop g2, and after knight play e5, and now the knight can go to b3 or c3. But the point is like knight f3. Now you play d4. You can't take the pawn because of a check, and the game continues, but it's very dry. And I had a couple games there, so she was probably well prepared. So prepare this new idea a6, which looks a bit weird. But the point is that after bishop g2, now I want to play queen c7, and I'm attacking this pawn. And it's a bit awkward for her to defend this pawn. The best way for white to play is actually just to give up the pawn, play queen takes, and then castles. And you give up the pawn, and it's super complicated. No, maybe not b3 here first. Or no, it's bishop e3. There's some move. I don't remember what the move is, but e4. Okay, I'm just... maybe this engine's messing with me. I don't want to turn the lines. But the point is that it's a bit awkward. She goes knight d2, and now this bishop is sort of hard to develop. She's going to have to go b3. I play knight c6, getting with tempo, knight f3. So now I've developed my knight with tempo. I forced the knight back. The knight belongs on c3, not really d2. So I was very happy here because I have a bit of an imbalanced position. And a lot of times when you're playing against low-rated players, it's really important to get some imbalance and keep pieces on the board, because usually if you're the better player, eventually you can prove that. You just sort of, when it's super dry and symmetrical, it's really hard to do. So bishop b7, castles. She plays a3. She probably didn't want to play b3 immediately because I played b5, bishop b2, bishop e7. I could also take. I could go b4. Bishop b7 is fine. I guess she wanted to play b4, but now the problem is you don't really want to go b4 now because I play bishop b7. Seeing this evaluation bar like go up and down as I just play like the most logical moves shows how stupid this bar is. But the point is I play bishop b7, and um, I, let's say that takes bishop b2. I have a completely fine position, maybe d6, then queen b6. Again, I have, more central pawns, so it's a little bit unbalanced. But anyways, she goes b3. Now I go bishop b7, bishop b2. Now I play b4. Now this is sort of a very deep move because, obviously she doesn't really want to take because I'm taking back with a knight. And now the pawn on b3 might be loose, and I have a very nice square for my knight, and it's sort of unclear how you're going to develop the queen. Because you can't really connect the rooks. The knight on d2 is misplaced. You really want it on c3, so maybe I can go bishop c6, queen b7, a5, try to put pressure on the b3 pawn. Like I go d6, knight d7, knight c5 to put pressure on the b3 pawn. Very slow. But anyway, she goes a4, which I was quite happy to lock the structure. Now I go d6, and now I have the plan to go knight d7, knight c5. I can put that on a5, and I'm really going to put the pressure on the b3 pawn. And she has, weakened her dark squares, so I had a very simple plan to go here, trade the darks for bishops, and then when they trade the darks for bishops, put it out on c5, put it on a5, and just start pushing everything. Which happened again, knight d7. Or do you want bishop f? Knight f5 first. Um, e4. I wanted to e4. Now again, you create a hole on d4. Um, um, and then the bishop is also cut. I don't really like this move at all. Bishop f6, trade. Knight d1, knight back to c6. It's actually a prophylactic move to knight d3 because now I can play knight d4. And let's say you move the queen here, then you get checked. If you go here, then you get checked, and then another fork. So the only safe square is b2. But then I give a check. I come here, attacking the rook and the pawn. The rook comes back, and now I go a5. And now my knight is super strong on c3. You can't try to kick the knight because the pawn on d4 is hanging. So you probably have to try to protect the pawn, try and go knight b1. But now I break with d5. My knight on c3 is super strong. His pieces are all sort of dominated. Um, so she went knight ef3, but then these knights are sort of weird, you know? You can't move this knight because the pawn's hanging, so now I go e5, cementing the structure. I wasn't sure, but now I wanted to bring my knight here to c5 to put more pressure, so queen e2, knight d8. Apparently this is bad. I missed... Apparently queen d3 is fine after takes. I didn't really see the follow-up. Maybe takes? Knight c5. Ah, knight c5, queen d6. Yeah, I blundered this, actually. I should have some move. Let's see what the computer says. Oh, I can play a5 and sacrifice the pawn, yeah. I don't know. I wasn't too worried about this. Yeah, even a5 because this b3 pawn is so weak, and I dominate the dark squares. So she goes knight h4 natural. Um, knight c2, rig d8, just protecting the a4 pawn. She has to go f3 because I'm threatening to play knight c5, attacking b3 and e4. So f3, knight c5, rook goes back to b1. I kick the knight, and now I go h5. But I want to play h4, and the point is that I kind of want to provoke her to play h4. And this whole game is all positional provocation. You know, I play b4 to provoke a4. You know, I put my pawn in e5 to control the knights, control the dark squares. And now I'm playing h5. Obviously, I want to play h4. And then if I can open up the king side, I have a way to break through. And if I play h4 and I force g4, then I've created another hole, you know? And then I can penetrate my knights on f4 and then e4, d4, and c5. And it's complete domination. So here she was obviously a bit uncomfortable. She should just play. Then I was thinking I can bring my knight to e8, and then knight to g7, and then to play f5. And I'll break with f5, and again, this bishop is just dead, and I have a great position. But I was playing quite quickly, and she played knight d5, which is a terrible move. I take with you can't take back, bishop a6, so pawn takes. I reroute the bishop to the best square. Come on, this knight is terrible. I have complete domination. Rook f2, rook e8, queen f1, queen a7, angling here. Bishop f5, queen g1, and now, like, she's putting her piece in the absolute squares. I'm like, okay, let me just go queen e7. She's thinking I'm going to break through. Let me just go h4, provoke some more weaknesses, and then I'm patient, you know? Completely stuck. Queen d1, h4, bishop c8, knight e3. Now I have a nice little move h3. If you take here, now I go here. And if you go king g2, now I can go king g7. And now rook h1 is coming, and I'm going to win this bishop. You can go queen f1 to protect. I thought I was just going to go knight d3 here. And obviously, if you take, I take. So the rook moves, now I go knight f4. Or I can go e4. And I'm sort of breaking through quite ugly. I could also go e3 here. Now after f4, then knight d3. So I thought even just simply like king g7 should be fine. Like bishop g2, rook here, again, h3, f5. Okay, I'm down a pawn, but look, all my pieces are coming, f4, everything's just going to break through. So I wasn't worried about taking the pawn. Now I get my queen in. Now I push my pawn. Again, the knight's dominating the rook. All these weaknesses, the king is stuck, the bishop is stuck, everything. So rook e2, I trade, now rook f3. Now the knight can never move because b3 falls. The bishop can never move because the knight is hanging. The rook can never move because it's tied to the knight. And this rook can never move because it's tied to the pawn. So now the only move you can make is king g1. I got rook here, rook b2, now rook f4. Now, again, the dominoes are collapsing. Once I go rook e4, the knight has to move. If the knight moves, the pawn falls, this pawn falls, this pawn falls. If these pawns fall, these two pawns become queens, and it's GGO. So after rook e2 here, she resigns. If the knight moves, I actually just give a check. The king moves, I checkmate. So you have to block, and I just win a full piece, and I win the game. So this was really a nice positional game. Sometimes with the black pieces, your opponents kill the game, and you don't get much of a fight. But the opening went my way, and I was able to get a fighting position where I showed a pretty nice positional masterclass. So this was a very thematic, simple game, just showing deep positional understanding. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. Appreciate all the the sort of feedback. Again, this video is going to be early to Substack, and I'm going to be answering questions from paid subscribers. You should make sure to comment there, and I'll be answering questions about the games if you have anything that you're curious about. So again, check out the Substack. Really appreciate the support. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.